Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon, and today we're going to be talking about something absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite subjects as an artist to study and to learn about, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is something that if you're a visual artist, especially if you're a painter, this is a skill set. This is an area of study that you absolutely must master. But it's one of those things where it's like a dog chasing its tail. You're never going to fully master it because it's such a vast subject and such an incredible, intricate skill set. But when you get really, really, really good at it, it can change everything for your art. And what I'm talking about is color. Color is just absolutely profound. It's deep. It's intricate. It's amazing. It's absolutely awe-inspiring. And from a theological standpoint, that's right, I said a theological standpoint, the implications of color theory are absolutely staggering. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I hope you're excited as much as me, but probably not because I'm pretty darn excited about it. But before we do that, guys, if you can do me a favor, if you can hit the like button on our Facebook page, and so that you can follow along with all the things that we're doing, both past, present, and future, that would be great. If you can share this broadcast with your friends, I'm sure you've got some friends out there that would love to hear about what we're going to be talking about today. That would be awesome. If you're watching us on YouTube, click the subscribe button. I would absolutely love it if you could hit the subscribe button and, of course, the fancy schmancy notification bell so that every time we post a new video, you'll get notified and you can be one of the first people to see it. That would be awesome. And if you're wanting to learn more about the Gagnon Atelier, what we do, what we are, upcoming events, things like that, check out our website, gagnonatelier.com. Tells you everything you need to know about us. We are a nonprofit art advocacy outreach ministry, which means that we use the visual arts to spread the message of the gospel, but we also work with churches and civic organizations to help spread their message through the visual arts. It's a way for them to attract attention that they may not normally get otherwise from people that would maybe never set foot in their organization. The visual arts will attract them. They come in and it helps those organizations spread the word. So we join together and we partner with organizations and ministries to help them spread the word. And we do that by using the visual arts to do it. So that's really cool. Now, if you're really interested in seeing something like what is our big project that we're working on right now, we're literally working on it right now, and you want to learn more about that, check out illuminatedmessiah.com. That is our upcoming big exhibit that we will be taking on tour. It is a series of 66 original narrative illuminated oil paintings depicting Jesus in every book of the Bible. Now, not only will this art be brought out on a traveling art exhibit that your organization can host, which we sure hope that you'll sign up and want to do that, but it's also, all of these paintings are going to be collected into an actual illuminated manuscript Bible. Now, what's exciting about that, since the invention of the printing press, you can count on less than one hand the number of truly illuminated Bibles that have been made. And so this is really exciting. I've been working on it for a long time, and it's going to be a while before I finish, but we are on tap to finish by the end of this year and take it on tour in the beginning of next. So if you go to illuminatedmessiah.com, not only can you donate to help us fund the printing of that Bible, you can also sign up to be a host church or a host organization to have this art exhibit at your location. And we are absolutely booking places to do that right now. So check out illuminatedmessiah.com, check out gagnonatelier.com, and you can become a part and partner with us for those future events. All right, guys, with that said, let's talk about color. Color is absolutely amazing. It is so powerful. It is so important for artists. But again, as I said earlier, the theological implications of it are staggering. And that's one of the things that we are going to share right now, because I'm going to say this in the beginning and I'll say it again at the end. If you are an artist and you are an artist that takes color theory seriously, you study it, you practice it, you work hard to perfect it, you, my friend, whether you realize it or not, are actually a theologian. That's right. You are studying God, because the word theology literally means theo, God, ology, the study of. It's the study of God. And we always think of that like it's like, oh, I have to like read the Bible, or I have to study ancient languages like Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic and all these different languages of the ancient times and study their cultures so that I can understand what these ancient scriptures are saying. Well, yes, that's true. But if you study color theory, I promise you, by the time we're done talking today, you're going to realize that if you study color theory, you have been studying God. And I think you're going to be really wowed when you are done listening today. So let's go ahead and dive right into our conversation. I am very excited for this to be happening. So here we go. Boom. There is our first slide. God is light. Now, you may have heard that scripture before. Maybe you have not, but here it is. And it's 1 John chapter 1, verse 5. And here's what it says. It says, this is the message we heard from Jesus and now declare to you. God is light, and there is no darkness in him at all. Now, if I was going to put the emphasis, if I was going to put the Tim Gagnon emphasis on this, I would put it on the word is. God is light. What is God? He is light. Now, he's a lot of things, but one of the things that he is light. So if God is light, then the next logical question is, what is light? What is it? Well, light, it's just radiation. That's all it is. If you've ever gotten a sunburn, and I'm sure you have felt the radioactive power of the sunlight. It burns you. It damages your skin. Light is simply the radiation that emanates from the giant fiery nuclear ball of energy that is our sun in outer space. And that radiation takes, I believe it's 8 seconds to get, or 8 minutes or something like that. It takes a while to get from the sun to planet Earth. But in that time that it takes the light to travel that fast, that radiation, that's just it. It's an energy. And so that light, that radioactive energy that comes from the sun, that's all light is. It's a wavelength of energy. It's actually multiple wavelengths of energy. And I'm sure some scientists out there could explain it a little bit deeper on the scientific side of that. But at the end of the day, light is radiation. It's a form of radiation. And we see it as light. And it's a bunch of other things too. There's the visible spectrum of light, and there's the invisible spectrums of light. And so light is this big thing with all kinds of parts to it. And we only see a small, tiny bit of it. We feel some other parts of it too. So that's all light is. So when we think about the sunlight, whenever you think of the sun, like in this picture, you see oranges and yellows and reds. But if you were to be in outer space and you were to look at the sun, it would be white. It'd be like staring at a light bulb. All you would see is white, pure white light. The reason we see the sun as different colors is because of our atmosphere doing something to the sunlight. We're going to be talking about that here in just a second. So Basically, when pure white light hits something like our atmosphere, that light bends. It bends. When it bends, it refracts. And that refraction splits the pure energy of the white light, the pure energy, and it splits it into its component parts. And that part has many, many parts. There's the invisible spectrum of the light, but then there's the visible spectrum of the light. And when pure white light hits a prism, like say a raindrop in the sky, you see then the visible color spectrum appears, the rainbow. And the visible light spectrum is all the colors that we see. So each color in a rainbow is a component frequency of that radioactive energy. That's all it is. But it's the small fraction of all of those frequencies that make up pure white light that we can actually see with our eyes. And so that's all this is. So this slide that you're seeing right here, you see this prism, the pure white light comes in, it hits the prism and it bends and refracts that light. And out from that comes a rainbow, the visible light spectrum. So one of the things, like when you see different colored objects, what's happening is quite unique. So here we have a ball, and in this case, it's a white ball. So white objects like this ball, they actually don't absorb anything. The white light that hits them, it doesn't refract at all. It doesn't bend the light at all. The energy hits it, and rather than absorbing anything, it just bounces it right back at you, pure white light. So you don't see any color, you just see white. Now, on a black object like this, rather than reflecting everything, what it does is it absorbs everything. So nothing gets reflected at you. So with a white object, pure white light comes at you, so you see white. But on a black object, everything gets absorbed. The entire color spectrum is absorbed and nothing reflects, so you see black. The absence of light is what black is. White is the reflection of all. Black is the absorption of all and the reflection of none. So when you have an object that's an actual color, you have this. And basically what happens is, in this case, the ball is red. So the white light comes down and the object absorbs every one of the component frequencies except the red frequency that it reflects or bounces off the object, and your eyes see red. If this was a green ball, it would absorb all the colors except green would be reflected. So whatever the color of the ball is, it's absorbing every one of the visible color spectrum wavelengths, but it is reflecting the color of the object. So very, very, very interesting. So that leads us to a couple questions. Number one, how our eyeballs see the light? How do we see light? Well, here we go. So here's a diagram of your eyeball, right? Here are your eyes right there, right? Like, I mean, with my glasses, without my glasses, zoom in on that eyeball, that's what you would see, okay? So this is a side profile of the eyeball. And you can see in the back of the eye, you see that little red square that has an arrow pointing to the thing that says cone cell and rod cell. In the back of your eye, you have these special cells, rods and cones. These are what absorbs that energy that gets reflected off of objects. The light from those reflections go into your eye and they go into these cells. And these cells are able to interpret that energy and send the information to your brain. And so a closer look at these cones and these rods are right here. Those are called photoreceptor cells. And they're, like I said, in the back of your eyes. The rods, they only see light. They do not see color. And so how they work are the light goes in and they register the lightness and the darkness of something. In other words, think of like black and white vision. When it's at nighttime, one of the things, next time it's dark outside, go outside and you will notice one thing. You actually see in black and white at night. Color disappears at night because it's your rods that are doing most of the work. At night, your cones in your eyes really don't work so well in limited light. They need a lot of light to see color, but when it's dark, your rods are doing the work, and we see primarily almost in black and white at night. And so the rods give us what artists call the value, the lightness and darkness. How bright is something? How dark is something? Well, that's determined by how much light is present. Well, the rods in your eye are what allow you to see that. Now, the cones in your eye, they are very special because they see color. But what's interesting is there's one cell for each color that you see. But here's the cool thing. Your eyes can only see 3 colors. That's right, 3 colors. Yeah, but Tim, the rainbow has way more colors than just 3. I know, but your eyeballs can only see red, green, and blue. That's right, RGB. Now, some of you are going, that sounds familiar. And it should. So the rods in your eyes see value, the lightness and the darkness. And the cones in your eyes, they see color. So the light that bounces off of an object, that light goes into your eyes and is picked up by both the rods and the cones in your eyes. And then that is interpreted and the signals are sent to your brain. So let's talk about the cones and the RGB. So think of it this way. Your eyes can only see red, green, blue. Remember we were talking about the whole theological side of this. Well, the scripture that we read in the beginning, it said God is light. But light is made up of these multiple invisible and visible frequencies. But the visible spectrum of light, technically, at least from a human's perspective, is only really 3 colors: red, green, blue. Now here's a little thing with the theology is God is light, and light is made from color. And there's only 3 colors. From a Christian theological perspective, God is a triune being. He's a trinity. One God made up of 3 persons: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. One God, 3 persons. Light, pure white light, is made up of red, green, blue. So 1 of 3, or 3 in 1, theologically, and 3 in 1 in a radioactive energy power. So pretty interesting. But so your eyes can only see red, green, blue. So watch this. If I had 3 lamps and I shot them down, because I know you're thinking about it, but there's more than 3 colors. What about yellow? What about purple? What about different kinds of blue? What about all these different colors that are out there? What about magenta? Well, how do you get those colors? Well, where those wavelengths overlap each other, they do some color mixing. And that's where we get all the other colors. How cool is that, right? So here we go. If you have a green lamp, a red lamp, and a blue lamp, and you shoot them down on the ground, you'd have 3 circles, 1 of each color. And where those colors overlap, you will get cyan, yellow, magenta. And where those colors overlap even more, you'll get all kinds of different colors. But look in the center on the floor of this picture. What do you see? You see white. That's because if you take red, green, blue, and you aim them all in the same spot, you will get pure white light. Because remember, pure white light can be broken up into these three colors. So if you put these three colors back, you get pure white light. But where they overlap in different percentages, you get all the different colors of the rainbow. That's cool. Now, here is a simpler, more graphical way of looking at it. Red, the green, and the blue, the RGB. But then you have the yellow, the magenta, and the cyan. So how do you get yellow? Red and green makes yellow. How do you get magenta? Red and blue makes magenta. How do you get cyan? Green and blue makes cyan. And you're thinking, yeah, but wait a minute, Tim. The primary colors are not red, green, blue. It's red, yellow, blue. Well, yes, if you're mixing paint or crayons or anything like that, yes. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about light and the way the human eye sees color. And in that way, that is what color truly is. And this is how light changes color. So in the visible light spectrum, the primary colors are actually red, green, blue, not red, yellow, blue. So there is a difference there when you're mixing colors to paint. Understand that. Told you this was going to be good. So if you remember, we said RGB was something that sounded familiar. That's because it is. Your television set, your smartphone, your computer monitor, if you're watching this on your computer, those are RGB monitors. And the way that it works in your monitor is really simple. You have thousands and thousands of tiny little LED light bulbs built into your monitor, into the screen, and you can see the close-up of them on the screen here. A red one, a green one, and a blue one. And there's thousands of them in rows like that. And how you project it is it reverses that prism. So how you get pure white light is, like if you look at your monitor where we're talking right now, right next to me, you see the slideshow. There are parts of the slideshow that are pure white. And then around that, there's pure black. And then there's the picture, and there's the picture of me and the video and stuff. So where you see white, all three of the red, green, blue lights are on 100%. Where you see black, they're all turned off. And where you see the different colors, like the green grass or the blue sky or things like that, what you see are, well, the red may be on at 10%. The green may be on at 90%, and the blue may be on, I don't know, another 5%. And the different ratios of each one of those little tiny LED lights can be raised and lowered, and where they mix like that creates every color imaginable. Told you this was getting good. All right, so here's the next thing. Observations of color in nature. You see, humans looked around. I mean, we're talking thousands of years. You know, man looked around and we started to notice things. And one of the things that we noticed was that there are certain things in nature that people find universally appealing, universally considered to be beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. And that's a big deal. And so man figured these things out. And one of the things that we figured out is that by observing color in nature, we realized that color has three things about it that are very important. Number one is the hue of the color. Now, somebody way back invented all these names for it, but the hue of the color is simply, what color is it? Is it red? Is it green? Is it blue? Some people like to call it the local color of something. But at the end of the day, it's what wavelength of the visible light spectrum are we talking about? What color is it? Red, green, blue, you know, whatever. Pink, yellow, orange, doesn't matter. That's the hue. Then you have the saturation or the chroma of the color, and that's the intensity of the color. How strong, how potent is it? Think of a grayscale image would have 0 saturation. So if you had a photo of, say, a bright shining apple, if it was a black and white photo, it would have a saturation of 0. If it was a perfectly really bright red strong apple, that would have a saturation of, say, 100. So that's what saturation is. And then you have the value or the lightness and darkness of the color. So think of it this way. If you were to take the color wheel that you see here and you would convert it to, say, black and white, well, the yellow color would be a lighter shade of gray than, say, the dark blue or the purple. They would be a darker shade of gray. So color doesn't just have the color. It also has the intensity of the color, but it also has the lightness and the darkness of the color. And you could have 1,000 different shades of blue. Some are really light and some are really dark. And so the value of every color, there are millions and millions of options. When you combine the hue, the saturation, and the value, there are literally billions of color options out there. So pretty neat. So mankind kind of figured that out a long time ago, and we started to be able to figure out how we can make those colors, say with paints and different things. And so this is one of the first things that man observed from nature about color. Now here's the other thing that we observed. Certain colors look good together and certain colors don't look good together. There are certain color combinations that really are beautiful. They're universally appealing. Everybody likes them regardless of what culture you're from, regardless of what era of humanity you're living in. It doesn't matter. And so artists have looked at it, and we looked at nature, like example, this photo of a fall scene. It's a beautiful fall scene. You see the green grass, and you see all the different warm reds that are there. This is a color scheme. Everybody loves pictures of fall leaves and foliage. Everybody does. It's beautiful. I don't know. I've never heard anybody say that foliage isn't beautiful, except when you have to rake the leaves. But everybody loves fall colors. Well, mankind has been looking at things like this for a long time, and we figured out that there are certain color schemes that really work. And here they are: analogous, complementary, triadic, and split complementary. These are like the 4 most popular color schemes out there. And so what happened is that artists like myself have figured out that if we apply these color combinations in our designs, our images that we create, whether it's a painting or an interior design or a fashion design or anything that involves color, if we apply these things to it, it will help it to be more pleasing to the eye. People tend to like it more. So here's a few examples of that. So here's a monochromatic color scheme. And you see what monochromatic is you take the color wheel and you just take one color from the color wheel. Like in this case, blue. You take this blue and you make the blue progressively lighter all the way to white, and you could make it progressively darker all the way to black, but it's still the same blue. So you're taking the blue and you're just changing the value of it. You're making it lighter or darker, but that's the entire scheme of the art. The colors used is only one color. It's variations of that one color, but it's still technically just one color. You can see here, look at all these different interior design examples that are just beautiful, but if you look at them, it's one color. Here's an example of a photograph of a sunset. And it's a beautiful image, but if you look at it, it's just one color. Nature showing us how it's done. God's a way better painter than I am. Here's an example of interior design again with a monochromatic color scheme. The next one is complementary colors, which are opposites on the color wheel. What's interesting about that is if you were to mix complementary colors, they actually cancel each other out, and you get like this olive gray kind of color if you mix them 50-50. If you put them next to each other, though, they tend to really complement each other. They make each other look better. And so with a combination, different combinations of complementary colors can do amazing things. Here's an example of some interior design with complementary color scheme. Absolutely fantastic. Now here's one. This one is called split complementary colors. This color scheme is by far the most universally appealing of all of the color schemes. People love this one. They go bonkers for split complementary color schemes. They're very, very powerful, and they elicit strong emotional, positive emotional responses in people. What it is it's basically a complementary color scheme. In other words, opposites on the color wheel. What you do is, in this case, complementary color would be the yellow and the violet, the purple. But then what you do is you go from the top, the yellow, to the straight down to the bottom, which is the violet, but then you split it over here and over here. So you have the red violet and the blue violet. So it's yellow, red violet, and blue violet. And that triangle that you make, that split complementary color scheme, people go bonkers for it. So it's pretty powerful. And here's an example in nature. You see the yellow and the purple. You see the purple flowers, and then you see the yellow and the green. You see that? That, again, from nature. God's way better at this than we are. All we're doing is God's been doing it forever, and then we come along and we figure it out, and then we apply it to our art, and oh my gosh, suddenly our art gets better. Okay, so let's now talk about the psychology of color. Psychologists have studied color and the effects that it has on humans for decades. And I'm talking serious scientific and psychological studies on the nature of color and the effects that it has on people. Really fascinating stuff. I'm going to share with you a few of those things right now. One of the things that we have figured out about color is the different colors elicit different emotions. Just like we have a visible light spectrum, those colors affect the emotional spectrum as well, which is just absolutely amazing. So here's a good example of that. Looking at the color wheel, yellows, optimism, clarity, warmth. Oranges, friendly, cheerful, confident. Reds, stimulating, courageous, and bold. Purples, wise, creative, imaginative. Blues, trustworthy, authority, strong. And greens, harmony, balance, and growth. And, you know, it's like sometimes you think, oh, that's just a bunch of psychobabble, but there have been countless studies on this. And it makes sense. If you think about it, your eyes are attached to your brain. And visual stimulus, quite often, look, when you watch a movie, the movie makes you cry, the movie makes you emotional. It makes sense that color would have the same effect. The light, the different color spectrums, the different energy wavelengths come into your eyes. That stimulates the nerves, which stimulates your brain, which affect the emotional center of your brain. It makes perfect sense. And so color is a very powerful way to elicit an emotional response. Artists have figured out ways to use that color to do that with our art. And so there you go. Here's just this part's going to blow your mind. The Baker Miller pink. This is a color that a psychologist came up with. This is the color that a very great deal of prisons are painted with. So here's the story behind Baker Miller pink. Psychologists were studying color and the emotional effects that it has on humans. And this particular psychologist was studying violent criminals that were in prison. And he wanted to see if the color, he had a theory that the color pink would calm them down. And so what he would do is he would have prisoners hold their arms out, and then he would try to push their arms down. While they were doing that, he, of course, told them, don't let me push your arms down. And he held up this color pink in front of them. And as they stared at the color pink, he noticed a dramatic decrease in their physical strength and a calming in their aggressive behaviors. When he did the exact same studies with the color blue, he discovered that there was no discernible change in their physical strength and no decrease in their aggressive emotional behaviors. And so the Navy, of all places, the United States Navy, actually took this and they started to paint their prisons with these colors, and lo and behold, they saw a substantial decrease in negative behavior from the inmates. And so now there are many prisons that are painted with this color, and those prisons have a dramatically lower number of violent incidences, outbursts, riots, any of those things. There's basically, it has been proven to decrease aggression and physical strength in men. It's amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing, fascinating study, the power that color can have on human beings. It's mind-blowing. So Baker, Miller, pink. Who knew? So here's something that you guys are going to love. This, if you were waiting for something cool in this video, the next couple slides, this is it. And it's going to be really exciting. Stare at this red dot. Just stare at the red dot. Don't blink and just focus on the red dot. I want you to look at it for the whole time that I'm talking and just keep staring at it. Don't blink. Don't go out of focus. Just stare at the red dot. And then quickly look away, look at your wall, look somewhere and start blinking your eyes. And what you will see is a green square. Instead of a red square, if you look away and blink, you're going to see a green square. Now we're going to go to this next slide. Look at this picture of this woman. It looks like a film negative, and it is a film negative. But I want you to look at her nose. You see there's three dots. There's a red dot, a green dot, and a blue dot, RGB. I want you to stare at the three dots on her nose and focus on the three dots on her nose. Don't look away. Just stare at those three dots on her nose and look and look and look. Now I want you to quickly look away and blink your eyes. And what do you see? Oh my gosh, you know it. You're seeing her in full color. You're seeing her in completely full color. You are seeing her go from this to this. Tell me that's not what you're seeing when you blink your eyes. Let's do it again. Stare at this for a while. Stare at it. Just stare at it and stare at it and stare at it. Stare at it for about a minute and then look away and blink your eyes and you will see this beautiful young lady right here in full color. Why is that happening? What is going on? Well, this is something that color has a powerful influence on our eyes. You remember earlier when we were talking about the rods and the cones in your eyes and how the cones in your eyes see color. And you can see red, green, and blue. Those are the color photoreceptors, the cones in your eyes. Well, when you stare at a particular color long enough, the cones in your eyes get fatigued. And when they get fatigued, they see the opposite color on the color wheel. They see the complementary color, the opposite. And so in this case, if you're looking at a negative, but you're staring at that red, green, blue, as your cones and the cones in your eyes get fatigued, they see the opposite color. So when you're blinking, the cones in your eyes are recovering and they're making you see this, which is why when you stare at this, you see a green square. If you were looking at a green square, you would then see a red square. That's how it works. So artists have figured out a way to take advantage of this phenomenon in your eyes and apply it to their paintings. And there's a very famous artist that did just that in the 80s and 90s, Thomas Kinkade. He was known as the painter of light. And this is really cool, guys. This isn't something new. He didn't invent this. This is something that's been going on since early in the Middle Ages. We figured this out. And what it is when you put complementary colors next to each other, it can create this effect. So what Thomas Kinkade was known for is his luminous technique. Now, he didn't call it that because he didn't want people to really know exactly what he was doing. He called himself the painter of light. He would go on QVC and he would show a painting like this one, which is called Candlelight Cottage from 1996. And he would take this painting and he would put it on an easel and he would have a dimmer light over it. And he would talk to the host and he would talk to the television audience and he would tell you to look at the lights in the windows, look at the light in the lamp. And then he would turn the dimmer switch down, making it dark around the painting. And as the lights around the whole painting dimmed, the lights in the windows of the painting and the light on the lamp in the painting would get brighter. And the host of QVC would like lose his mind, like freaking out, looking at like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And people thought it was special paint. People thought it was a special printing technique on his prints, but it was none of that. I'm telling you his secret right now. It was the luminous technique. And what it was is it was complementary colors. The windows are yellows and oranges and reds and a few little bits of white in there. But for the most part, it's yellows, orange, and reds. Well, around those, he would put purples and blues and grays and very muted colors. As you can see, the house and the trees in the background, the grass, the foliage, it's very muted colors. If you really look at them, they're blues, purples, and grays for the most part. Now, what happens is as he dims the light around the painting, your eyes start to strain to see the colors in the purples and the blues and the this and the that. And because it's getting darker, it's harder to see those things. Your eyes start to strain to see that. Well, when your eyes are getting fatigued, they see the opposite color, but the opposite color is still there in the windows. And so it makes it look like those colors are getting brighter. It's not that they're physically, the paint is getting brighter. It's that your eyes are exhausted and they're amplifying those complementary colors. That's the trick behind all of this. And it's an amazing technique. And if you ever have a painting like this, you can look at it, get a Thomas Kinkade calendar, put it under a dimmer switch and try it. And you'll see that it actually does that. It's fascinating. Well, Thomas Kinkade and other artists figured this out by using color theory to do that. Well, guess what? Where did they learn that from? Well, just like we learned about the hue, the saturation, and the value of color, and just as we learned about color schemes by observing the natural world, this technique was also learned by looking at the greatest painter in the universe, God. God's been painting with the luminous technique every sunset in the history of sunsets on planet Earth and probably everywhere else. Okay? So when you see a sunset, you get your camera out, you take a picture, and you're all, wow, look at this. And then you post a picture on Facebook and you go, huh, it doesn't, the picture never does the sunset justice. Well, there's reason for that. You have been looking at the sunset. You're experiencing the whole luminous technique with the reds and the oranges and the yellows of the sun and the blue sky and the purple clouds and maybe the beach sand and everything's graying. And as your eyes are straining, it's making the sunset colors, the yellows, the oranges, and the reds, get amplified because your fatigued cones are seeing the opposite color. You're straining to see blue and purple. You're seeing yellow and orange more. And so sunsets also then, again, your eyes are attached to your brain, your emotional centers. So people get sometimes overcome with emotion looking at a sunset. It's so beautiful. Oh, I've literally seen people tear up looking at a sunset because they're that powerful of a response, right? So this sunset, Panama City Beach, where I live, some of the most beautiful sunsets I have ever seen in my life anywhere. It's just unbelievable. But people take the photo doesn't do it justice because your phone doesn't have emotions. Your phone just takes a picture. But here's the cool thing. This photo under a dimmer light would do the same thing that the Thomas Kinkade picture would do. The sunset part would get brighter while everything else around it gets darker. That's the fascinating thing about color theory. So powerful, powerful stuff. You know what? This stuff is just awesome, isn't it? It's just amazing. But here's the thing. Jesus said, I am light. He said right here in John chapter 8, verse 2, Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. See, this is the cool thing. This is I don't know what you want to call it, the ramifications of it is God is light. And because God is light, he's also color. Now think about that. That is cool. Okay. God is light, and light is made out of color. Light holds all of the colors within it. So if God is light and he's the source of light, he is the light, he's also color. So when you are playing with color and you're seeing color, you're actually seeing God. A little fraction of who he is in the colors that you see every minute of every day. And whether you're colorblind or not, you can still see one of the three attributes of color. It's value. So you can still see God. And that's cool. Now it says, oh, no one's ever seen the face of God. I'm not talking about the face of God. I'm talking about one of the attributes of God. Light. If you can see light, you can see a very fascinating aspect of God. If you can see color, you're seeing another facet of who he is. And that just blows my mind. And for an artist who studies color, I paint color wheels all the time. And I study it and I mix the colors and I blend the colors and I work them. And I'm always trying to figure out more and more and more about color. And I train with mixing colors and I make color wheels. And then I take each color and I make tints and tones and shades, which is adding white, adding black, adding gray. I play with the saturation of color. I play with the chrome of color, and I practice and I study and I read books, and I'm constantly trying to figure out color to make my paintings more effective and to use techniques like the luminous techniques and the different color schemes like analogous, monochromatic, split complementary, all of those things to create paintings that are more visually pleasing to the eye, but also create a positive emotional response in my viewers. You know, if you are an artist and you study color theory, whether you believe in God or not, whether you understand it or not, based off of the scriptures that we shared today from 1 John chapter 1, verse 5 and John chapter 8, verse 2, you have been studying God. You're not just an artist, you're also a theologian. And that blows my mind. Color is God. Now, he's a lot of other things too, But one of the things he is color. And if you study color, you've been paying attention to God. And if that don't light your fire, your wood's wet. Holy cow, that was awesome. All right, guys. Well, I had a blast talking to you about this. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, because I enjoyed it a whole lot. If you like broadcasts like this, if you like content like this, please let me know in the comments below. And also, if you can, like and share this video, this post. If you're on our Facebook page, if you can like the Gagnon Atelier Facebook page, that would be great. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We've got a lot more videos like this, as well as our Modern Masters podcast, where we interview today's top working artists in the world today. So we've got so much content we would love to share with you and be a blessing to you. It's a blessing to us to be able to provide this content for you. And we just hope that it is a blessing to you. So as always, guys, just remember what I always say: God loves you, and so does your old pal Tim. We'll talk to you next time.